Welcome back. So many of us have been through things in our lives that maybe we're not proud of, or maybe come from situations that we're embarrassed by. And there are ways to move past that. And we have an author here with us now, Remy Diederich. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Diederich. And you wrote a book called Healing the Hurts of Your Past that kind of explores this whole issue as to how to move on from all the things that we've all come from.
Yeah, we all have issues. We all have hurts and insecurities. Some of us more than others, and some of us are just really scrappy. We're very resilient. We're able to pick ourselves up and just move on. And a book like this, we go, I don't even understand why you need to read it. But other people say, I'm really stuck. I'm really hung up. And that's why people go to counseling. Or a lot of people never make it to counseling. In fact, that's one of the reasons I want people to have the book, is if they don't quite have the courage to go see a counselor, if they could get a book like this, it'd really help them think through maybe some of the hurts from their past.
You talk a lot about shame and overcoming shame. What do you mean by shame? Because I think it's different for every person, right?
Sure, and shame is something that people don't always even understand. I mean, I think a lot of times people think of guilt. Maybe it's something that they did, being ashamed, like you're feeling guilty for doing something wrong. But really, shame has to do with a bad self-concept. So you think of yourself as being someone who's worthless. Like I said, most of us feel insecure. We feel bad about something that we've done or who we are, but it's going beyond just feeling that you've done something bad. It's feeling that you're defective. But even more than that, it's believing the lie that because I'm defective, therefore I'm worthless. I might as well quit. I might as well give up. I might as well not be in relationship. I might as well just quit that job because everyone knows I'm worthless. So there's a distinction there, because I really think we are all flawed. None of us are perfect.
Right.
So, and I think most of us understand that, but it's going that next step and saying, because I'm flawed, because there's something wrong with me, because I'm not perfect, I might as well give up. I'm worthless.
Are these issues that come from childhood? I know for me, I went through an experience, I was probably 8 years old or so, where this older girl was picking on me.
Sure.
It took me a long time to get past that.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think a lot of it does come from when you're young, because you're so impressionable at that age. I mean, if your parents are speaking to you in a very destructive way, that can mar you for life. But I've often talked to people who they said, Remy, I don't know how this happened. I grew up really healthy, and then I got married, and then they married someone who was really abusive. And just being in that constant situation of being put down and belittled, it tore them down. So after 10 years of being in that situation, they ended up being a shame-based person as well. So yes, it does happen a lot in childhood, but it can happen later in life too. And what often happens is once you establish a pattern in your youth, in your childhood, of being shame-based, you repeat that pattern over and over. You seem to gravitate towards people that put you down and abuse you. So it's a lot of people can relate to this.
Well, is this true too? Dr. Phil sometimes talks about playing a tape recorder in your head. It's like somebody else said something one time, but it sticks with you and you tell it to yourself over and over. So it's almost like you're doing the bullying for that
Exactly.
person.
We pick up, so if your parents were abusing you, verbally as a child, you say, hey, no problem, Mom and Dad, I'm going to take that over now. Even though if they're gone, they can be passed on, and you're still telling yourself the same negative things.
Okay, so how do we start to move past that? That's what everyone wants to know.
Sure. Well, before we even get there, I just want to talk about connecting some of the dots, because I think it's really helpful for people to connect what I just talked about, that insecurity, that sense of shame, and understand, how does that affect me in my life? How does that make me live in a different way? And there's really 3 things that I talk about in the book that causes you to do this shame-based attitude. And one of them is just to be very controlling. I'm going to control my persona. So because if I'm feeling insecure, but I don't want you to know how insecure I am, I'm going to come across really confident.
And we all know people like that.
Yeah, well, it's usually us. I mean, in some respect, we all do it that a little bit, putting out a little bit better show than how we feel in the moment. But then we have overachievers. Just before I walked in here, I was reading an article about Steve Jobs. And Steve is interesting, and goes right along with what my book is about, because Steve Jobs felt very rejected by his biological parents. He was given up for adoption. And so he felt very rejected by that, and he lived with that hurt of rejection for years. And it's interesting what it caused him to do, that he became an overachiever, which many shame-based people do, because they want to prove their worth. Oh yeah, you reject me? Well, I'm going to show you that I'm valuable. And so they excel to a high level. I've been watching the show The Voice, the song competition, and I just saw the thrill that these people have of being chosen. You know, if that chair doesn't turn around, they're crushed. If the chair does turn around, and if all 4 chairs turn around, they're elated because it's an affirmation of their worth and their value. When no one turns around, it's crushing. And so many of us work very hard to try to be chosen by someone. Steve Jobs did it, and he became just excellent. And these people in The Voice do it. I think we all do it to some extent.
So are you saying that that's a bad thing? Because it seems like, I mean, for Steve Jobs, that worked out pretty well for him.
Worked out well for him. But as I was reading through the article, he was obnoxious. Many people considered him a jerk. He got fired from Apple initially. When he was 30 years old. So it didn't always work for him. And thankfully, in his case, he was so excellent that people put up with it because he excelled to such an extent. And so in one sense, that he might not be the best example, but I think we can see in people like that, we overachieve. And a lot of people try to overachieve to compensate. Many people are perfectionistic. Many people just, they've got to look the best, they've got to drive the best car, they've got to have the best. They'll even, spend more money than they have to have a nice house just to put up the right facade because they're afraid that people will see them as being, well, you're not really measuring up. So we try to look like we measure up. So anyways, that's one. We try to control our look. Another thing we do is just deny it. So if I'm feeling really insecure, I'm just going to minimize it. And someone might come to me and say, Remy, you're feeling, I can tell you're a little insecure, you got some issues, maybe you can get some counseling. Oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. So I minimize it, I deny it.
Gotcha.
I might start drinking, I might use drugs of some kind.
Just whatever you can do to ignore
anything, just to medicate that, because I don't want to go there, because if I might get real defensive if my wife talks to me about something. my hair in the back of my neck.
Careful, because she's sitting right over there.
I might get really defensive towards her because of that, because I'm insecure and I don't want to expose my insecurity to her. So that whole denial is a big area. And then the third thing is just being very self-destructive. And because one of the things I do is I work in a treatment center, I see a lot of people being self-destructive, even suicidal. They just don't know how to live with themselves. And so they're constantly almost looking for an excuse to sabotage their life because they're convinced that they're not valuable. And if I'm not valuable, I should probably, if I'm in a relationship, I should probably end this relationship now because they're just going to reject me anyways. If I finally get a really good job, I might as well just go out and drink tonight and get fired before they fire me.
So actually sabotaging themselves in advance.
Exactly. It happens all the time.
And not even, you work with drug addicts, obviously, but this could be something as simple as, hey, I just got a big paycheck, so I'm going to go blow it. Or maybe I'll just, maybe eating too much. Or, I think there are a lot of ways that people do that.
Many manifestations of that. Sure, with a big paycheck, rather than be responsible, maybe you're feeling intimidated by that I don't know how to handle this well. I might as well just go blow it. I'm going to go to the casino tonight and blow it all.
Right.
Because otherwise, if I have to be responsible, I don't think I can do that. I've never been responsible with my money, and at least this way, I can do it in a fun way and a way that I can maybe joke about with my friends rather than admit to my friends that I'm just a really bad money manager.
Now let's go back to denial for a second, because something you said was very interesting. You were talking about, keeping your problem from other people, but it's kind of twofold, because there's also a way to keep it from yourself. You know what I mean? You're keeping your secrets from other people, but you're also in some way telling yourself this isn't an issue.
Absolutely.
Just to avoid dealing with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the primary benefit of denial, is that I don't have to look at it. Yeah, I don't want you to see it, but I think that comes more under the control. If I'm being a perfectionist, that's because I don't want you to see it, but denial is because I don't want to see it. If I have to face that, if I have to face the hurts and the sense of being flawed and like I've said it in the book, being damaged goods, that's kind of painful, because if you don't have a solution for that, if you don't have an answer for that, what are you going to do with it? I just have to, every day I have to look in the mirror and go, Remy, you're damaged goods. Remy, you're flawed. And I don't want to look at that.
And isn't it true, too, that a lot of people do that so often, day to day, year to year, that that's just how life is?
Oh, sure. It becomes a pattern. And then, like I said before, once you develop that pattern, it's really hard to break out of it. And then you start to attract certain kind of people to you as well.
Gotcha.
And people will take advantage of you because they see that you don't have very much self-esteem. And they go, well, I know I can take advantage of you. I'm going to take advantage of her because she doesn't think much of her anyway. So, and you might be desperate for a friend, so you will accept that person into your life who really isn't there for you. They're there to take advantage of you.
So the very problem you're having, you could be attracting, you could be bringing it on yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about how we can start to address these problems,
Excellent.
move forward, deal with them, and get them out of the way. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.